Hello, everyone. So, we are going to be going over Miss Foster's 8 rules for writing today. And these are kind of just. They're rules that I made for very, very common ways of writing that don't always do the best for the tone and style that you're going for. So these are just 8 rules that I want you to follow throughout your writing because I truly do believe that each of these rules is going to make your writing better, okay? So the first rule is about the word you, the second person, okay? So, the reason that I don't want you to use the word you in your writing is because you addresses a singular person, okay? In your writing, you're not addressing a singular person. You're addressing a group of people. And so you don't want to make assumptions about individuals just because you're using you as a sort of plural, I guess. I don't know. So just a few examples. And you don't have to write all of these down. Just kind of write what what you want to remember and everything. But for instance, when you go on Twitter, you see lots of disagreements among feminists. Well, I don't go on Twitter. So if you're writing in your paper, when you go on Twitter, you mean you, me, Miss Foster. And I don't go on Twitter. So whatever you say after that is invalid. Okay? You've made an assumption about me, and that assumption is incorrect, and therefore what you have to say after that is invalid. In a lot of cases, what you actually mean is yourself and not me. So replace it with I or me. I don't have a problem with the word I, because if you're talking about yourself, that's really the best way to do it. So if you want to use the word I, use the word I, okay? I don't mind you putting yourself in your writing, okay? And it's become more socially acceptable for you to do so anyway. So instead of saying when you go on Twitter, you see, say when I go on Twitter, I see. And that I can't dispute, because I'm assuming that if you're saying that when you go on Twitter you see things, that is correct, that you are actually seeing those things. So you can replace the word you with I or me. Another option, so another example, when you are trying to conform to gender norms, you might find it difficult. Again, you're assuming that I, Miss Foster, the reader of your paper, am trying to conform to gender norms. And that is an assumption that is incorrect. So to correct that, most of the time what people mean when they say you is people. They don't mean you singular, they mean people plural, okay? And so if you mean people, plural, don't say you, singular, because that's not what you mean, okay? So if you mean people, say people, not you, okay? So instead of, when you are trying to conform, you would say when people are trying to conform to gender norms, they might find it difficult, because that way you're not making an assumption about your individual reader, okay? So, most of the time that people, they replacement is going to be the one that you use, okay? Another example, you should not expect people to conform to gender norms. Now, especially with that should, an assumption can be really dangerous. You should not expect people to conform to gender norms. You're assuming that I do expect people to, and you're telling me not to. Okay? So, in the case of should, I often recommend that you replace it with we, because then it seems like we're all in this together, we society, we, you and I, we, everybody. Okay, we should not expect people to conform to gender norms. So that's another option for replacement, is the we instead of the you. Okay, and then there's the hypothetical you. Imagine you have a daughter, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, why? Why should I imagine such a thing? Like, can't I just tell me about the real situation that's going on instead of the hypothetical? So replace the hypothetical with something real, okay? Think of all the little girls instead of asking me to imagine that I have a daughter. It just, I understand what you're going for when you try to do that, because it's a matter of, you're trying to put someone in someone else's shoes or to make a personal connection. But like, the you isn't necessary, okay? And it's important to note also that when I give you these rules, they only apply to your essay writing, your academic essay writing. It doesn't apply to emails. It doesn't apply to your speech. It doesn't apply to anything else, okay, that you do. All right? Because I say the word you all the time. I do it even in my writing because I'm writing instructions and I am addressing you. And I'm telling you what to do. And there are certain ways in which that is acceptable, but not in academic essay writing. Make sense? So, rule 1, do not use the word you, ever. Replace it with I, people, or we. That's going to help you be more specific in your language and to convey what you really mean, because what you really mean is not you, Miss Foster, my reader. What you mean is either people or me or, or society, So say what you mean. And that's the gist of a lot of these rules, is say what you mean. Don't use these shortcuts, okay? Be specific, say what you mean. You have a chance to choose your words carefully. Please do so, okay? Next is the word things. Things, stuff, anything like that. So the word thing is really, really vague, okay? And it can mean anything because things refers to everything, okay? So here's a few examples of ways to eliminate the word and why I'm saying I don't want you to use it. So the thing about feminism is that it requires understanding. Now, I say the thing about all the time when I'm talking. I say the thing about this, the thing about that, the thing about this other thing, and the thing about this, and I do that all the time. And I understand that you're just trying to build yourself a way in. But when you're writing, you really don't need that way in the same way that you do when you're speaking. So you can just eliminate the word. That's one option. So instead of saying the thing about feminism is that it requires understanding, you just say feminism requires understanding. Yes, all my examples have to do with feminism. I was in a weird mood that day, the day that I wrote these. So what are you going to do? Okay, another example, I may sometimes see things differently than other feminists. Instead of, saying things, you can, again, eliminate the word by being more specific. So, I may sometimes have different opinions than other feminists. Rather than seeing things differently, having different opinions, you are being a little more specific, okay? Opinions is more specific than things, okay? Another example is feminists sometimes say things that I don't agree with. Oh yeah, what kinds of things? Things and stuff. Not very specific. And yeah, you might go into more detail after that, but there's a more specific word there. There's always a more specific word than things. So you can use a more specific word. Feminists sometimes express opinions that I don't agree with. Opinions is more specific than things. Okay? Another example, there are many things that people don't understand about feminism. And again, you can replace it with a more specific word. People often don't understand the goals of feminism. Goals is much more specific than things, okay? And I have a 100% success rate in replacing the word things with something more specific. Thing and things with something more specific. Don't replace them with stuff either, because stuff is not specific. It's just as vague as things. So if you have things or thing or stuff, then replace it with something more specific or eliminate the word entirely. Sometimes it's just not necessary. If you can't figure out how to do it, call me over and ask me, or send me an email with the sentence, and I will give you a better word. Okay? So rule 2 is don't use the word thing, replace it with a more specific word. That's going to, again, help you to use more specific language that conveys what you really mean. Say what you mean, okay? Be specific. Choose your words carefully, okay? Another sort of commonly used terminology is in today's society. And people say, in today's society, people are able to be more judgmental because of social media. Or in the modern world, or nowadays. And really, that's a placeholder. It's meaningless, okay? So it can be eliminated entirely without changing the meaning of the sentence at all. If I say people are able to be more judgmental because of social media, you're not wondering, well, I don't know, is that in today's society? Or was that 2 years ago? Or was that, because I'm using the present tense, it was today. You know that I'm talking about now, unless I say otherwise. There is one exception to using the word now, and in this instance over here, now people are able to be more judgmental because of social media. That's not an acceptable use, because you're basically just replacing in today's society with now. But there is one exception to using the word now, and that is if you are saying, back then, this, now, this. If you are transitioning from the past to the present, you can use the word now, but I don't want you to use in today's society. And part of the reason that I don't want you to use in today's society is because it comes with a lot of baggage. Okay? Basically, it's sort of a crotchety old man way of saying, things were better back when, and now, society is going to hell in a handbasket. And Meh, meh, meh. And you really don't want to convey that necessarily, because it doesn't really convince anyone of anything. It's just not the tone you should be going for here. So avoid in today's society, especially, but try to avoid the other variations as well, because you know what, things are better now than they were in times when we didn't have indoor plumbing. So let's not glorify certain things, all right, from the past anyway. So just you want to avoid that. So rule 3 is do not use any variation of on in today's society, because it's an empty placeholder phrase. That helps you be more direct in your language and to make everything you say more specific. Directness is also important for academic style and tone. So, that is another reason that I have a lot of these rules, is to make your writing more direct. Okay? Assertive. Not aggressive, but assertive. Okay? That's what you're going for. So we'll try to eliminate some of these like placeholder phrases that kind of bog you down and take you away from that assertive directness. The next rule has to do with generalization. So basically, when you say there are many reasons, there are lots of different ways, there are many factors, it's a really big issue, those are all generalizations. They don't mean anything. Okay? There are many reasons. How many? What do you mean by reasons? Like, what do you, what are the reasons? List them. Give me a few examples. Now, you might go on to elaborate after this sentence, but why even have this sentence that tells me I'm going to be telling you reasons later? Okay? You just don't need it. You just say, instead of saying there are many reasons women should have equality, you just say women should have equality because. And give me some of those reasons. Especially the big one. Women should have equality because they're people. I don't know. But and then elaborate on sort of the sub-reasons. Okay? There are a lot of different ways to gain equality for women. Just say, we can gain equality for women by. And list some of those different ways rather than telling me there are different ways. What different ways? Tell me about them instead of telling me that you're going to tell me about them. Instead of saying there are many factors that go into developing equality for women, say, when developing equality for women, we must consider these factors. Okay? The ones that are relevant. List the ones that are relevant to what you're talking about. You don't have to list every reason, every factor. Okay? Just list the relevant ones. Okay? You can say afterwards, there are more reasons, but I'm not going to list them. That's fine. And then a final example, equality for women is a really big issue. Yeah. And yeah, really big. How big? In what way is it big? Be specific. Women still don't have equality, even in developed countries, even though gender equality affects everyone negatively. That conveys that it's a really big issue, but it's more specific. Okay? So, rule 4 is instead of giving empty generalizations, speak only in specifics. Just get right to the point. That's going to help you be more direct and make everything you say more specific. Okay? Next is signposting. And signposting is basically they are phrases that indicate where you are in the essay and what's coming up next. So, signposting is really good for speeches in a lot of cases because it is helpful for your listeners to know where you are in a speech and what's coming next, so they know what to listen for and that sort of thing, because they're only hearing it once, and if they miss something they can't go back. But in your writing they can go back, okay? So they don't need signposts to tell them what to read for. They can always go back if they feel like they've missed something. So you don't need signposts. So a few examples of signposts in this essay I'm going to talk about. That shows up in the introduction a lot. So don't say that. In fact, you shouldn't be saying the word essay anywhere in your essay. There's no reason to tell me that you're writing an essay, that this is an essay, or that you're going to talk about things in this essay. Okay? Get on with it. Instead of telling me that you're going to talk about something, just talk about it. All right? Just start talking about it. I promise, it works. Here's an example that shows up when people are using quotes in their papers a lot, is if you put a quote, then afterwards you say, this quote shows that. You shouldn't be using the word quote to talk about your quote. Okay, there's no need to tell me that it's a quote. I can see that it's a quote by the quotation marks, and you don't need to tell me. Okay, so what I want you to do is, instead of telling me that the quote shows something, tell me what the quote shows. Okay? Don't tell me that you're going to talk about something. Tell me what you're talking about. And another big common one is the phrase "in conclusion," which is basically a signpost that says there is a conclusion. Here it is. And congratulations for writing a conclusion, but I don't need to know that. I can tell by the fact that it's concluding, if you've done it correctly, and that it's at the end, that it is, in fact, the conclusion. And so you don't need to say "in conclusion." Now, if you need the words "in conclusion" to be able to give yourself an in to writing the conclusion, go ahead and do that, and then highlight the words "in conclusion" and press backspace. Okay? I don't want to see the words "in conclusion" anywhere in your paper. I don't want to see the word "quote" anywhere in your paper. I don't want to see the word "essay" anywhere in your paper. I don't want to see the word "paper" anywhere in your paper. Okay? Those are all signpost red flags. Okay? So instead of telling me what you plan to say, just say it. Don't tell me what you're going to say. Just say it. It helps you be more direct and specific. Okay? Next is explaining the process. So that's when you go through and you tell me sort of the behind the scenes of when you were writing this essay. And I don't need to know that. I really only need the end result. Okay? So the way to correct these is always to take out the process that you went through to get there and just give the result of that process. So, for example, when I was doing research for this paper, I found an article. Now that is usually to signify to me, your teacher, that you have done your research and you found an article. And good job. And I applaud you for doing your research and finding your article. I really am happy for you. I don't need to know about it because I'll be able to tell that you did your research and found your article by the fact that you are using your article, which is the way to correct it. Just tell me what you found in the article. And don't say, I found in the article. Just give the information of the article, okay? Another example, as I was writing this paper, I started thinking about. Now, again, you're trying to signify that you were doing thinking, and I, again, applaud you for your hard work and your thinking. But I will be able to tell that you did thinking if you have a paper that is reflective of the thinking that you did. You don't need to tell me that you did the thinking. You just need to tell me the end result of that thinking. Okay? And another example, and I swear to you that I have had this before, so don't laugh. I asked my mom how she would write this paper, and she said she would talk about whatever. Now, using your resources is a very smart idea. If you think your mom can help you with ideas, ask your mom, ask your sister, ask your brother, ask your father, ask your, grandma, ask your friend, ask your teacher, ask your tutor, ask whoever. Ask everybody. But don't tell me about it. Okay? If you really want to give someone credit for their ideas that they gave to you, you can cite them as a source, like an interview or something. Like, if you're really concerned about it. Alright? But, otherwise, I just need to know, what came of that. I don't really need to know the process that you took to get there. Okay? So instead of telling me about your writing and research process, just give me the result, okay? All I need is the result of your writing and research process. I don't need to hear about it, okay? That's going to help you be more direct, to get to the point, to be more specific, okay? And repeating the assignment is the next one, and I'm going to have you do a quick thing for me and write like a short, couple sentences, a paragraph about why you chose or thinking about your topic for our current paper. Was there a story behind it? What is its meaning for you? Go ahead and pause this video and do that now. All right. So, I'm going to go ahead and guess that many of you started with something like, the reason I chose to write about, or I chose to write about because, the reason I chose to write about my topic because, or I chose to write about whatever. So you're using the language of the assignment prompt, okay? Because I said, write a paragraph about why you chose your topic, and you said the reason I chose to write about the topic, okay? Many of you probably put something like, the story behind it is, after that, because I said, was there a story behind it? And the meaning for me is, because I asked, what is its meaning for you? Okay? You need to eliminate all of that. And I realize that you've been taught to do this, specifically for worksheets. Repeat the question in the assignment, or, in the answer. But the goal behind that is to get you to write like there's no prompt. But phrasings like this show that there is a prompt. I can tell by reading this what the prompt is. Alright? So to correct that, just eliminate that language. Instead of saying the reason I chose to write about feminism is because I'm really passionate about it. Just say, I'm really passionate about feminism. Instead of saying the story behind it is that I'm a feminist and here's my story as a feminist, just put your story as a feminist. Whatever. I don't know. You might not be a feminist. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. Leave me alone. Instead of saying, the meaning for me is that, I've developed my own sense of feminism. Just say, I've developed my own sense of feminism. Okay? All of this is going to make you sound more professional. Okay? Like you're not writing to an assignment. That's the goal, is to write like there is no assignment. To make it look like you didn't have an assignment, even though you did. Okay? So do not use the language I used to describe the assignment in the assignment. Write like there is no assignment. So for instance, we're going to do analysis essays in this class. Do not use the word, don't say I analyzed. Don't say my analysis is. Don't do it. Don't do it. Anyway, this is going to help you be more direct in your language and to enhance your academic tone, okay? It's going to make you sound more professional. And finally, defensiveness. These are phrases where you are being defensive and you don't want people to attack you. And I totally understand in the world of, the internet, why you would use defensive language to be like, please don't yell at me. Because that is a lot of the interactions that people have on the internet. It's just being yelled at, no matter who you are or what you say. Okay? You could be posting cat videos and someone's going to yell at you. So anyway, in academic essays, you don't want to use that kind of defensive language, though. Okay? So defensive phrases are things like, to me, and then you give your, opinion. Or personally, I believe. It's just my personal opinion. It's just, please don't yell at me, please. This one's good. Some may disagree, but I feel, just me personally, just kind of my opinion, please don't yell at me. Or everyone has different opinions. You may have your own opinion. I have my opinion. My opinion is this, but you might disagree, and that's okay. That's fine. Please don't yell at me. And this one's my favorite. People have a right to their own opinions, but here's what I think. You have a right to your own opinion. You can think what you want, but this is what I think. Now, the big problem with defensive language and defensive phrases is that you don't want to give people permission in a persuasive essay to disagree with you. Defensive language gives them permission to not agree with you. When you are trying to persuade, you don't want them to disagree with you, so don't give them permission to. Okay? You are allowed to give your opinion and defend it with evidence. And, if they don't like it, if they don't agree, after you have given your carefully laid out evidence for believing what you do, then you're not going to persuade them anyway, so let it go. And they can't yell at you because you're not going to post this to the internet. All right? And if they do, they're jerks. So, just let those people go. The people who disagree with you when you say, your opinion and you defend it with evidence, you know, let those people go. But don't give them permission to disagree with you, at very least. Don't give them an out, okay? You want to be persuasive, so don't use defensive language, okay? As long as you explain your opinion, back it up with evidence, you don't have to say that it's just your opinion. It's not just your opinion. It's the opinion that you have formed through careful reasoning, logic, research, whatever. Okay? So don't belittle your own opinion. Okay? Try to get other people to share your opinion. That's going to help you be more direct, and it's going to strengthen your rhetorical stance. Okay? So that is the end of the Miss Foster's 8 Rules of Writing. Please let me know if you have any questions or need anything elaborated on. And I will see you guys in our next class. Bye.